Okay.
Audio.
Big Mama's house. Big Mama's house. Welcome to Big Mama's house. Big Mama's house. Yeah. Big Mama's house. Welcome to Big Mama's house. Big Mama's house. Yeah. Hello, BMH Universe. Welcome back to Big Mama's House Papa's Edition. We're just going to go over some baseball stats. It's close to the end of the season, about a month left to go. I'm going to talk about a few teams that are like on the bubble for the playoffs and what they need to do. The post trade deadline not working out too well for a few teams, and we'll get into that too also, about certain teams and about the record. All right, so we're going to start out in American League. We're going to have the American League East. The Orioles are still a surprising team. They're actually at 77 and 47 and the first place in the division. Their last 10 have been 7 and 3. So they're actually we're in the middle of the season here, towards the end of the season, trying to close it out with one more month to go. Close it out strong. The Rays, they were first place for like most of the season this year. They started out great. I think they started out like 18-1 or something like that. It was just crazy, a crazy start. But now they've fallen back. But they're still second in the division at 75 and 51. 3 games back. There's still time to get the division. Last 10, they're a game behind the Orioles in the last 10 at 6 and 4. So they're gonna have to start playing a little bit better if they want to actually catch the Orioles. But I mean, there's a lot of time left. There's like 40 some games. Let's see, for them, there's like 36 games left. For the Rays, so I mean, only 3 back, so they got to actually start winning again here. The Blue Jays are third, 8.5 out. 5 and 5 is the last 10, but they're in the thick of the wild card, just like the Rays. They're both in the thick of the wild card. The Red Sox, 66-58. They're 11 back. They're 7 and 3 last 10, but they also just swept the Yankees the last series. So good for them. That keeps them 4th place. They're not going to win anything. They're not going to go to any playoffs. No wild card. The Blue Jays are actually last, or 4th in the wild card. Half came out. The Red Sox are what, 5? They're like 3, 2.5, 3 out from them. I don't see them making wild card or any kind of playoffs that way. The Yankees are 60 and 64, 17 back. The last 10 are 1 and 9. They've lost like 8 or 9 straight now. Like I said, they just got swept by the Red Sox, which, if you're a Yankee fan, that's not good because they're one of your biggest rivals. What they might be doing, the Yankees, they could be gearing up for the offseason. There could be some changes in the coaching and the managerial department. Aaron Boone, who knows what they're thinking. He's been there a long time, but he might be getting stale, and they might have to get rid of him, actually, and then start anew. But there's some big free agents out there this offseason that could actually change the face of the franchise. You got Shohei Ohtani. He's out there. He's one of the. He's actually the biggest prize. He hasn't re-signed or had no contract extensions yet with the Angels. So the Yankees could be looking to next year and beyond. But as far as right now, at this specific time, they stink, and they're at 60 and 64, and they're the worst team in the East right now. We're going to American League Central. Again, a weak division. I don't understand how the Phillies lost to some of these guys, but they did. But the Twins are at 65 and 60. They're first place, 5 and 5 last 10 games. They still stink, but they're still first place in that division. The Guardians, 59-66, 6 back, 4 and 6 the last 10. They actually made some weird moves, and also they got some people in a trade, and they cut them like the very next day in the trade. Gene Segura, to be exact. I don't know why you would trade to get somebody like Gene Segura and then cut him. I have no idea, but he's still one of the game's better infielders, one of the game's better hitters, more clutch, one of the game's more clutch hitters. If you're a fan of the Guardians, you should not be happy with that. Again, there could be some coaching changes, some manager changes coming up within the next offseason or so between the Yankees, Guardians, and some other teams coming up. Tigers are third, 57-67 in the Central, 7.5 back, 6 and 4 last 10. The Tigers aren't going nowhere. The White Sox are bad. Royals are actually no, there's the second worst team in American League. But none of those teams are worth really talking about because they ain't going nowhere. Maybe the offseason will be more worthy of talking about in the offseason, come free agents and signings and firings and whatever. But as of right now, nobody except for the Twins in that division are going anywhere. So there's that. The West, we have the Rangers at 72 and 52. They're still a surprise team in my opinion. I think they're actually going to probably. I still got the Astros winning that division and Mariners winning the wild card. But the Rangers are still there. They're 72-52, first place, 4-6 last 10 games. They're still hanging on to that first spot in the West. We've got the Astros at 70 and 55. They're second in that division, 2.5 back, 4-6 last 10. Again, they're not going to gain any ground if they don't win more games than what the Rangers have been winning. It's simple math. So, I mean, right there, they just got to start winning some more games. The Mariners have won like 6 or 7 in a row at present time. They're at 69 and 55, three back of the Rangers. They are 7 and 3 in the last 10, so they actually have gained some ground. Actually, 3 games exact. So they're moving up in the rankings there. The Angels, there's a team that I want to bring up. The trade deadline, they had a chance to get a king's ransom with Ohtani. Ohtani is not going to sign with them. He's probably going to sign with the Dodgers or maybe even the Yankees. He wants to stay to West Coast, but I see the Yankees maybe outbidding the Dodgers with their money and with their being desperate as far as because they're the Yankees. But he won't be with the Angels. They should have traded him in a trade deadline, got a bunch of prospects back. But they were actually playing really, they were playing pretty good actually at that time. So they're like, well, maybe we have a chance to wild card, which they do not. They don't have a chance to wild card or the division. So they're basically caught with their pants down, so to speak, because they can't really make their team better. Because after the season, they can't trade him now because the trade deadline is over. They can't get anything back for him because he's going to be a free agent. So with Shohei Ohtani being the best player in baseball, I mean, that's not my opinion, but that's a lot of people's opinions, being the best player in baseball. And he's going to leave the Angels with nothing. So bad move on that GM's part because they should have got rid of him. They should have traded him when they had a chance. Because they're fourth in the division at 61 and 64, 11 and a half back of the West. They're not going to win the West, and again, they're not going to. They're definitely not going to win the wild card. So basically, they're done. They're 4-6 last 10, and they're a dead team basically. The Athletics are 34 and 90. They're going to be the first team to 100 losses. They're 38 games back, 2-8 last 10. I think they're just. I don't think there's a such thing as tanking in baseball because there's not. You don't get. The draft is way different than in football. So I mean, in baseball, I don't think you should. There's no such thing as tanking. I'm not. They just think. I just think that's what it is. They just think they're not very good. And then in the wild card, we got the Rays being first in the wild card, up by 5 games. Then we got the Astros second, up by a half game. And then from Seattle. And then we got Seattle's third. And then we got the Blue Jays a half game out from Seattle. And then everybody else is like 6, 7, 8 games out after that. They're not even worth talking about. So American League, the Orioles most likely will win the East. The Twins will definitely win the Central. The Rangers most likely wins the West. And then we got the Rays, Astros, and the Mariners winning the wild card. I'll go over the baseball standings again here in another couple weeks. Another episode down the road for baseball closer to the end of the season, and we'll go over the standings again for American League. But as of right now, it looks pretty locked in there for the Orioles, Twins, Rangers, Rays, Astros, and Seattle to make the playoffs. Now we got the National League. We're going to start with the National League East. We got the Braves. Actually, they're the best team in baseball, hands down. There ain't nobody. I mean, the Orioles are close to them, but they're 3 back of them, 3.5 back. The Braves are at 80 and 43. They're going to be the first. They might even get to 100 wins. I will not doubt that at all. They're 8 and 2 last 10. They were lost last night on a walk-off walk with the bases loaded to the Giants. So I mean that's the only way you can beat them, I guess. Then we got the Phillies second place behind the Braves, 67-57, a 3.5 back. Their last 10 5-5, so they lost 3 games in the standings to them. And even though they're not going to win the division, their main thing is now the wild card. They got to keep ahead of the Giants in the wild card. But the Phillies, who actually the past week or so had a no hitter, Michael Lorenzen had a no hitter. He's a brand new. They got him a trade deadline. He was like the first start he had with the Phillies. He went 8 innings, giving up no runs, a few hits. He won that game. The second game he pitched for him, he pitched a no hitter. I mean that's the best you can actually do as a pitcher. Well, a perfect game, but no hitter is really good as the next best thing. And in his third game, he didn't do too well, but he did throw 124 pitches and a no hitter. And I was actually pretty impressed that the Rob Thompson, the manager, actually let him go 124 pitches because in this day and age in baseball, pitchers don't pitch that much. They don't go 100 pitches hardly. I've seen games where managers take pitchers out of 80, 70, 80 pitches, which right there, you still have a good 1 inning left with 70, 80 pitches, in the tank. So, I mean, going 124 pitches, going 9 innings, they actually did really well with him. And they also they skipped him in one start to give him some extra time off. But I think that extra time off might have hurt him because he didn't do too well last time out. We got the Marlins in third place at 64-61, 17 back. Last 10, 5-5. They're 2.5 behind, 3.5 behind the Phillies. So they're going to be right there, third place most likely in that division. Mets are at 58-67. They're 23 games back. Last 10, 6-4. They're an absolute mess. They should be called the New York Mets and not the New York Mets because, they got Verlander and they got some free agents this year. Paid them some big money, and they didn't do anything, and they traded him at the trade deadline. So the Verlander experiment was a disaster. The Scherzer experiment, I think, was pretty much a disaster too because they didn't win nothing with him either. So they got rid of their 2 highest paid pitchers, two highest paid, players actually, and then they're basically got some prospects back, but nothing big, nothing huge. So they got Ronald Acuna Jr.'s brother, I guess you can say, or cousin, an Acuna boy. I mean, I don't really care, but I mean, if he's good, he's not going to be that good to where they're going to win that trade. That trade was just a money dump, and it was just a dump. Period. The Nats actually are playing better now. They're 7-3, but they're still going to finish probably. They're going to fight the Mets tooth and nail to stay out of last place. They're 24 games back of the Braves. They're playing better than the Mets now, but they're probably going to finish last or at least next to last in that division. Then we got the National League Central. It's actually a little bit better. It's actually a little bit better than the American League Central. At least you have 3 teams with winning records. We got the Brewers at 68-57. They're first place. They're 7-3 last 10. Got the Cubs at 64-59. They're 3 games back. They're 6-4 last 10. And the Reds came back down to earth. They're 64-61. They're 4 games back. They're 4-6 last 10. The Pirates were good at one point in time this year, but they're back down to earth. They came crashing down back to earth, as only the Pirates can do. They're 55-69, 12.5 back. They're 4-6 last 10. But the main thing is the Brewers, Cubs, and the Reds, they've been the top 3 teams all year, and they're switching. It was like the Reds were first place for a while, then the Brewers. I don't think the Cubs ever were first place. If they were, it was April, but they haven't been first place in a long time. But they're getting up there. They're still a good month and a week or so left to go in a season. So, I mean, anything can happen in that Central Division. But the Brewers do look really good right now. Even though they got swept by the Dodgers. Then the very next series, they swept the Rangers. So they made up for that Dodgers debacle, I guess you can say. And then we got the Cardinals picking up the rear, 55-70. They're 13 back, 5-5 last 10. They did give away a lot of the pitchers. Joe Montgomery they got rid of, Flaherty they got rid of, but they still got Wainwright, who's no good anymore. They still got Goldschmidt and Arenado. They can actually just off season. They can make some moves possibly to build around those 2 cornerstones. Hopefully they get some pitching in there, and they can actually contend next year. I personally hope they don't, but for every Cardinal fan out there, for your benefit, I hope they do. And then we got the West, where the Dodgers are actually 9-1 last 10. They're actually really kicking butt now. They're at 76-47 first place. Like I said, are 9-1 last 10. They're going to win that division hands down. The Giants are next. They're second. They're 65-59, 11.5 back, 3-7 last 10. The Giants will have that division wrapped up here within a few more weeks. The D-backs are third, 64-61, 13 back, 7-3 last 10. Padres, a big, huge disappointment. Again, they could have traded a piece or two to maybe make them better for the future, but they didn't. So they're probably going to trade a few pieces this offseason. Juan Soto is one of those players. Maybe Blake Snell, the pitcher. Maybe Hader, the closer. But maybe one or all three. But I mean, even one of those guys could get you some pretty high-end prospects to get your team looking better. And then the Rockies are, as usual, 48-76 last place, 20.5 games back, 3-7 last 10 in that West Division. So in the wild card is actually pretty interesting. We got the Phillies first place in the wild card, 67-57. They get the number one wild card spot, 2.5 up on the Giants. Big 3-game series this week between those two teams. If the Phillies, hopefully the Phillies sweep them, and they can go up, 5 games, 6 games on them. That'd be awesome. Even 2 out of 3 would be good, but they got to at least take 2 out of 3 to keep the pace and hopefully get that wild card spot. Then we got the Cubs are third at 64-59, and the Reds are a game after that. The Marlins are a game, and D-back. So the National League wild card is a little bit different than the American League wild card. You have a good 6, 7, 8 teams that could still be in it by the end of the season. American League wild card, you don't have that many. You just have 4, 5 tops in that division. But for baseball, like I said, I wanted to bring up Michael Lorenzen's no-hitter. That was a big feat. I think it's the 17th no-hitter in Phillies history. I do believe that's what it is. But I mean, it was an awesome game. Again, I was surprised that Thompson let him go 124 pitches. But he did a really good job. Now he needs to do a good job here coming up his next couple starts to finish out the season strong and to get us a wild card spot. So that there is my baseball story. Now I'm actually I got a couple things here for football. There's a lot of people out there that's excited for the NFC preseason, or the National Football League preseason, sorry. I, for one, I'm not excited about the preseason. I actually hate the preseason. I know they need it for the bubble players. I just don't enjoy it as a fan because, for one, if you do play the starters, there's a chance they might get hurt because it's a real game. It's not a walkthrough. It's an actual real game. And there's a chance that they could get hurt and change the whole season. Then again, if you don't play your starters, then there's a chance that they're going to be rusty come the season starting. And it makes the preseason games quite a bit boring because, you don't want to watch a whole game with third and fourth stringers because I really don't. It doesn't appeal to me at all. But I do understand why they need it. And they're not going, they went from 4 to 3, which is good. They're not going to go from 3 to 2. I don't think 2 preseason games is enough for the bubble players. But as a fan myself, I do not enjoy the preseason in any aspect. Maybe years ago I did when the starters played more. But again, you're also jeopardizing your season if you play a starter or two and they get hurt. Like when Jalen Hurts plays in the preseason, he gets hurt. There goes the Eagles season most likely, or A.J. Brown or any of those guys. Any of the offensive linemen go down. It's just, we don't want that to happen. So I'd rather them go into the first game against the Patriots rusty than, get on, get better as the game goes on, than actually go in there with a bunch of hurt Eagle players on the injured list before the season starts. Also, I want to talk about that's a little pro wrestling, a little bit of an opinion here in pro wrestling between the WWE and AEW. All right, now there's probably AEW fans out there. There's probably a lot of them out there that maybe listen to this show. I don't know. But AEW to me is WCW 2.0, which means it's no better than what WCW was way back in the 90s, early 2000s, mid 90s. Vince bought that, and most likely eventually down the road by Tony Khan's AEW. You just there's no way that AEW is going to take WWE out of business, no matter how many wrestlers they try to get and just put on the back burner, just because they can take them and not use them. WCW tried that; it didn't work out too well for them. Yes, there's no Stone Colds coming to the rescue, no Rocks coming to the rescue. But what WWE has, that AEW doesn't have, is wrestlers. They have better wrestlers. You got uh, LA Knight's a better wrestler. I know you got the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega, yada yada, CM Punk. I don't care. FTR, I don't care. But as far as uh, the wrestling is better on WWE than it is in AEW, because it's just AEW is more cartoonish, more outlandish. And like I said, that didn't work for WCW back in the day. It's not going to work for AEW today. But that's just my opinion. WWE is going to still outshine AEW. WWE sold 90 plus thousand tickets the first day of ticket sales in Philly for WrestleMania 40. Sold over 90,000 tickets in one day. AEW has never done that, and I don't think AEW will ever do that. So that's just my opinion on the matter. I take it for what it is. I've just been watching WWE for 40 plus years. AEW is just a flash in the pan, just like Impact Wrestling and all those other places. Just another place for the indies to go being glorified to another big company. Other than that, that is my episode for the day. Again, not much football news because it's still preseason. I'm not big on the preseason, but there will be a lot more fun to come down the line when the season starts. I'll be giving you my fantasy teams. I'll be giving you my fantasy here in the next episode or two. I'll be giving my fantasy football team. I got two of them going. I'll let you know about both my teams and both my leagues, and then we'll talk about that. And we'll talk more pro wrestling down the line. There's another pay-per-view coming up called Payback. That's in September. We'll talk about that here pretty soon. And we'll also talk about more baseball. The season's, like I said, winding down. It's getting the nitty-gritty. We'll see in the next episode or two how the standings have changed or if they stay the same. All right, but until then, everybody just spay new to your pets, use your turn signals, and have a great day. Thank you.